Hi, welcome to our What is the Good Mother Project channel. I'm Dr. Katie Ho, your host, author, and research principal investigator.
And this is Jeannie Chu, your co-host and undergraduate research apprentice.
In our What is the Good Mother Project channel, we will provide you with evidence from psychological theories and research to answer questions regarding the parenting effect on child development. Today, in this episode 2 in our What is a Good Mother Project Season 1 videos, we are reviewing article number 2 on our reading list. This is an empirical study published by Garcia and Serra in 2019. Today's presentation topic is what is the short-term and long-term effect of parenting style. I guess this is an important question that researchers, parents, and people in general want to know.
In episode 1, we learned that the parent's parenting style, i.e. emotional attitudes, directly affect how open the child is to parents' parenting practices, such as demands of obedience and responsibility taking. Then, what are the outcomes of different types of parenting styles? Does the parenting style experience in childhood impose perpetuating long-term effects in adults?
The authors Oscar Garcia and Emilia Serra were from the Department of Developmental and Educational Psychology of the University of Valencia in Spain at the time of this publication. The study was entitled Raising Children with Poor School Performance, Parenting Style, and Short-Term and Long-Term Consequences for Adolescent and Adult Development. It was published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health.
This article was one of the many parenting studies that Garcia and Serra have conducted in Spain to help the government find out what factors cause the heightened school dropout rate found in their country in recent years. As noted in its title, they were not only commissioned to study parenting as a potential risk that would lead to troublesome teen outcomes, they were also commissioned to look at whether poor school performance was another crucial risk factor to heighten school dropout rates. In short, Garcia and Serra intended to test whether parenting style, school performance, sex, and age, the 4 independent variables, would lead to differences in respondents' self-esteem, psychosocial maturity, and emotional maladjustment. Secondly, they intended to examine the interaction between 4 independent variables, that is, to test whether the effect of parenting style on the child outcome variables varies by school performance, sex, and age. Let's talk a little bit about the background of this research. Garcia and Serra wrote, parents play a key role in the way their children develop, either contributing to the child's developmental competence or failing in the parenting socialization process when children manifest a lack of instrumental competence. Please note the 2 key terms here, parental socialization, which is also referred to as parenting style, and child's developmental instrumental competence. Parental socialization refers to the role of the parent in teaching the child how to behave in socially acceptable and desirable ways in accordance to the societal expectations in one's culture. Child developmental instrumental competence refers to the process of development in the child towards being nourished with certain useful and socially desirable competencies or skills that can lead to one's success in living in a particular society.
Garcia and Serra reported previous research on the research findings on the link between authoritative parenting style and optimal child development outcomes. For details, please pause to view the information on the slide. What Garcia and Serra wanted to investigate was the short-term and long-term effect of the 3 other parenting styles, namely the authoritarian style, the indulgent style, and the neglectful style. In fact, previous research had mixed results over the short-term and long-term effect of the authoritarian style and the indulgent style. Now, let's take a look at the operational definition of parental socialization. The classic definition of parental socialization or parenting style is measured by 2 independent dimensions, the level of warmth and the level of strictness. I've created the 2 illustrations shown on the slide. They were painted in acrylics. Let's talk about the dimensions of warmth on the left. Warmth is the degree to which The parents show their children care and acceptance, support them, and communicate by reasoning with them. As you can see on my acrylic illustration of warmth, the parent faces the child in a close distance with eye-level contact and interaction. The reddish-orange background conveys a warm and loving environment in which the parent engages the child in play and conversations. You can tell me more about what you can feel and sense by viewing this illustration of warmth in the comments below. I would love to hear your reaction.
Strictness is the degree to which parents impose standards on their children's conduct, use supervision, and remain in an assertive position of authority over their children. Thus, in the drawing of strictness, the use of rows and columns of circles and dots illustrate how life is oftentimes about fulfilling the structure of what society expects of you. The parent has a special role in guiding the child to how to follow the structure of one's socio-cultural environment and how the child may learn to become a responsible, contributing citizen in order to become good and successful. Based on the two dimensions, warmth level and strictness level, parents can be categorized into 4 types of parenting styles. Parents showing high level of warmth and high level in strictness have the authoritative parenting style. Parents showing high level in warmth but low level in strictness have the indulgent parenting style. Parents showing low level in warmth but high level in strictness have the authoritarian parenting style. Parents showing low level in warmth and low level in strictness have the neglectful parenting style.
To help you visualize and feel how each parenting style type is similar and different from each other, on this slide, we listed the values associated with each of the 4 parenting styles so that you can compare them. So please pause to take a closer look at the values.
Let's continue to translate those values into measurement items the study utilized for operationally measuring respondents' recalled parental socialization experience. First, authoritative socialization experience is measured by high and warmth level, that is, my parents often talk to me about our plans and listen to what I have to say, and high and strictness level, that is, my parents often make sure that I know exactly what I can and cannot do. On the other hand, authoritarian socialization experience is measured by high in strictness, like authoritative experience, but low in warmth level, that is, my parents did not talk to me about our plans or listen to what I have to say.
Now let's talk about the indulgent socialization experience. It resembles partially the authoritative socialization experience on its high level of warmth received. That is, my parents often make me feel proud when I do well. It differs partially from the authoritative experience on its low level of strictness. That is, my parent did not believe in having a lot of rules and sticking to them. That means that indulgent parents often provide a lot of praise, care about, and provide emotional support to their children and seldom set rules for them to follow. Lastly, the neglectful socialization experience is partially like the indulgent experience because the parents set no rules for their kids to follow or do not stick to the rules. And it is partially like the authoritarian experience because the parents seldom praise, seldom care about, and seldom provide emotional support for their children.
Slide Processes 7 displays the research purpose and operational definition and the measurement of 2 of the 4 main independent variables, namely the 4 parenting styles or socialization experiences and school performance. Please pause to take a closer look at the details.
Slide Processes 8 displays the operational definition and measurement of the 3 sets of dependent or outcome variables, namely self-esteem, psychosocial maturity, and emotional maladjustment. Self-esteem is measured by 3 subscales, which are academic professional self-esteem, emotional self-esteem, and family self-esteem. Psychosocial maturity is measured by 3 subscales, which are self-competence, social competence, and empathy. Emotional maladjustment is measured by 3 subscales, which are nervousness, emotional instability, and hostility. For details, please pause and read the sample measurement items that we put on the slide on your own.
Garcia and Serra tested two hypotheses. Please view the text version of the two hypotheses on this slide, process 9. For our pictorial representation of the two hypotheses, please look at the conceptual map on the bottom half of the slide. Both the school performance independent variable and the parental warmth independent variable were hypothesized to lead to high self-esteem and high psychosocial maturity and low emotional maladjustment in the child outcomes. The positive relationship or correlation between the independent variable and the outcome variable was indicated by the positive sign. The negative relationship or correlation between the independent variable and the outcome variable was indicated by the negative sign. It was predicted that the higher one's school performance and the higher one's parental warmth experience at home, the higher one's self-esteem and the higher one's psychosocial maturity, and the lower emotional maladjustment.
Altogether, there were 2,069 respondents in Garcia and Serra sample. 602 were adolescents aged 12 to 17, 610 were young adults aged 18 to 35, 469 were middle-aged adults aged 36 to 59, and 388 were old adults aged 60 to 75. A four-way 4x3x2x4 factorial multivariate analysis of variance known as MANOVA was used for testing the main effects of the four categorical independent variables, namely parenting style of 4 groups, school performance of 3 groups, sex of 2 groups, and age of 4 groups.
Let's turn to the key findings. Their MANOVA results revealed statistically significant main effects of all 4 categorical independent variables, namely parenting style, school performance, sex, and age, as highlighted in red on our slide. On the other hand, not every interaction effect was statistically significant. There were 4 interactions effects that were statistically significant with p-values of under 0.05. They were the interaction between parenting style and age, school performance and sex, school performance and age, and sex and age, as highlighted in blue on our slides.
For the purpose of this presentation, we will only discuss the findings that concern the effect of parenting style, which we are highlighting here by the white arrows and highlights. For details, you can pause to take a closer look. Let's take a look at the results in detail. The univariate analysis of variant results showed that, first, indulgent parenting was the most optimal style in bringing out the most optimal development of academic, emotional, and family self-esteem, and the most optimal development of psychosocial maturity, namely self-competence, social competence, and empathy. On the other hand, indulgent parenting was most optimal in preventing emotional maladjustment, namely rendering the lowest levels of self-reported nervousness, emotional instability, and hostility.
Authoritative parenting also led to optimal development in academic self-esteem and family self-esteem, but not emotional self-esteem, and optimal levels in all 3 psychosocial maturity outcomes. However, authoritative parenting did not lead to the lowest levels in nervousness, emotional instability, and hostility, like how indulgent parenting did.
Third, authoritarian parenting and neglectful parenting, both showing low level of warmth, foster the worst development of all outcomes. More interestingly, authoritarian parenting, coldness, and strictness showed statistically significantly the lowest family self-esteem.
This table compares the effect of parenting style and the effect of school performance. High level of school performance were associated with the highest level of academic self-esteem and family self-esteem, but not emotional self-esteem, and highest levels of self-competence and empathy, but not social competence, and the lowest levels of emotional instability, but not nervousness and hostility. And, unlike indulgent parenting, warmth, and a lack of strictness, good school performance did not lead to higher emotional self-esteem or high social competence or lower nervousness and lower hostility. In other words, the results demonstrated that one's emotional self-esteem, social self-esteem, nervousness, and hostility were associated with such familial factors as parenting style, as opposed to one's academic performance.
Low level of school performance was associated with the lowest academic self-esteem and highest level of all 3 emotional maladjustment subscales, but not on the 3 psychosocial maturity subscales. These results demonstrated that academic self-esteem, emotional instability, nervousness, and hostility were associated with poor academic performance, although the results could not show us the direction of influence or causality. From slides key findings 5 to 9, we're displaying the univariate results on each child outcome variable. Besides the comparison of child outcome means across parenting style, we highlight the interaction effect between parenting style and age groups found by Garcia and Serra. Although we are also showing the means across the parenting style on each outcome subscales, in the next 5 slides, we'll focus on pointing out the parenting style and age group interaction effect.
What does parenting style and age group interaction effect mean? It means that the effect between parenting style and outcome variables was different for different age groups.
Now, let's take a look at the parenting style and age group interaction effect. It occurred only on family self-esteem, but not on academic professional self-esteem and social self-esteem. It means that the degree of influence of different parenting styles on family self-esteem changed for people in different age groups.
Let's take a closer look at Garcia and Serra's figure A on the right-hand side of the slide. The interaction occurred on the neglectful parenting group and authoritarian parenting group. The red arrow and oval highlight a downward trend in values on family's esteem as one aged, found in neglectful parenting group, which means high in coldness but low in strictness. However, the blue arrow and oval highlights an upward trend in values on family self-esteem as one aged, found in authoritarian parenting group, which means high in both coldness and strictness. This interaction showed that the effect of parenting coldness without strictness might be lessened as one reaches middle age, but in the long run, neglectful parenting would lead to deteriorating and the worst family self-esteem in one's old age. Slides key findings 6 to 8 display the interaction effect on the 3 psychosocial maturity outcome variables. Here on key finding 6, let's take a look at the interaction between parenting style and age group on self-competence through Garcia and Serra's figure B, shown on the right. The red arrow and oval highlight the upward trend on the values of self-competence as one ages for both the indulgent parenting group, which means high in warmth but low in strictness, and the authoritative parenting group, which means high in both warmth and strictness. That means one's self-competence level could be maintained in high levels in one's old age for those raised by parents regardless of strictness.
However, the blue arrow and oval highlight a downward trend between middle-aged group and older age group on self-competence that occurred for the authoritarian parenting group, which means high in both coldness and straightness, and the neglectful parenting group, which means high in coldness but low in straightness. In other words, in the long run, those raised by parents with high coldness regardless of straightness showed decline in self-competence as they came into old age. This slide, key finding 7, shows the parenting style and age group interaction effect on the second psychosocial maturity outcome variables called social competence. The red arrow and ovals highlight the upward trend on social competence. The first upward trend was found between middle-aged group and old-aged group for the indulgent parenting group and the authoritative parenting group. The second upward trend was found between the young adult group and the middle-aged group for the authoritarian parenting group.
On the other hand, the blue arrow and ovals highlight the downward trend in social competence as one ages. Specifically, indulgent, authoritative, and neglectful groups all show continuous downward trends on social competence from adolescence to middle age to adulthood. But for the authoritarian parenting group, characterized by parental coldness and strictness, the downward trend occurred sharply from middle age group to old adulthood. In contrast, for the indulgent and authoritative parenting groups, which share common traits of parental warmth, instead of a decline, social competence increased from middle age to old adulthood.
What does this finding mean? It means that parental warmth shows to have long-term effects on maintaining high social competence in people as they are in their old age. On the other hand, parental coldness showed the opposite result, that is, leading to long-term decline in social competence in old age.
Key Findings 8 shows the interaction effect on the third psychosocial maturity variable called empathy. The red arrow and ovals highlight an upward trend on empathy, which occurred for the authoritative group and authoritarian group, both characterized by high strictness, from adolescence to young adulthood. But these upward trends were there because of low empathy scores reported in adolescence for all the parenting groups except the indulgent group. The indulgent group showed the highest levels of empathy throughout the lifespan.
The blue arrow and oval highlight the downward trend in empathy from young adulthood to old adulthood for the neglectful parenting group. The decline in the neglectful group, coldness without strictness, was drastic in their old age. Key Findings 9 shows the results of the emotional maladjustment subscales. The parenting style effect on the three emotional maladjustment variables, nervousness, hostility, and emotional instability, was uniform across all age groups. There was no interaction effect found between parenting style and age groups. Authoritarian parenting and neglectful parenting, characterized by parental coldness, were associated with the highest scores on nervousness, hostility, and emotional instability.
Here's a quote from Garcia and Serra's study that summarizes their findings. First, the result did not reveal an interaction between parenting style and school performance. Thus, the relationship between parenting styles and children's socialization outcomes does not vary based on school performance. Moreover, poor school performance is consistently associated with the worst short and long-term socialization outcomes, not only during adolescence but also in adulthood.
Secondly, indulgent parenting style, that is warmth without strictness, is an effective parenting strategy regardless of the child's school performance. That means even as a child has poor school performance, indulgent parenting style is effective in raising high self-esteem, psychologically mature, and emotionally well-adjusted individuals. Thus, parental warmth seems to serve as a buffer against the negative effect of poor school performance on one's psychological well-being.
Thirdly, children raised in indulgent families obtained equal or higher levels of competence and adjustment than those who were raised in authoritative households. This finding suggests that high in strictness may not be as important in a household that is already filled with parental warmth. In contrast, both authoritarian and neglectful parenting, coldness, were related to the worst outcomes. This statement means that parental warmth and parental coldness were more determining to the child's outcomes than parental strictness or lack thereof.
Because of time, we would not be presenting the details of these other contribution slides, but we might talk about them in the future episodes.
One limitation that Garcia and Serra pointed out was there was a need to examine more thoroughly the correlates of parenting styles among at-risk teenagers who are facing other risk factors in life. What might be correlates of parenting styles? Garcia and Serra did not point that out, but we can give it a thought.
Another issue is with their data analysis method. It would be interesting to see correlations between the independent variables, such as parenting style, school performance, age and sex, and the outcome variables, self-esteem, psychosocial maturity, and emotional self-adjustment, and the subscales. The use of structural equation modeling method can reveal more interesting results as well.
Our next article to be reviewed on our channel is by Ronner 2021 with the title Introduction to Interpersonal Acceptance Rejection Theory and Evidence. Ronner's theory was originally called Parental Acceptance Rejection Theory. He extended his theory to include the description of interpersonal relationships, which he found was very similar to the parent-to-child acceptance rejection impact.
Okay, so that's the end of our episode 2 today. So please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time.